up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Meaning of Podcast. I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And this is the podcast where we talk about your favorite film directors and the deeper meaning within their movies.
Oh, yeah.
And we are back at it again with another director. This week, we're going to be talking about famous, infamous, whatever you want to say, major, well-known director M. Night Shyamalan, because regardless of whether you like him or not, he is one of the most popular directors when it comes to name recognition for a general movie-going audience. And RB3, that's not very common nowadays, but M. Night Shyamalan is one of those guys who where if there's a movie coming out and M. Night Shyamalan is directing it, people tend to know about it. And we're going to be talking about his filmography, and we're going to be talking a little bit more. I kind of want to have a general conversation about directors and fame and popularity and PR and all that kind of stuff that revolves around directors nowadays, and kind of our theme of our podcast, which I kind of want to have a little conversation with you about.
The auteur theory and stuff like that. Well,
the auteur theory, yeah, correct.
It's fascinating because I actually want to come in and have a conversation about that today too. Ace, so.
Finally, man, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Usually we're fighting.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding, but yeah, we're gonna get into all that stuff in this episode. Last week we talked about the Oscars nominations. Not too much there. I didn't see any really any huge relevant conversations. Do you want me to go through? I can.
Nah, I don't know. Did you read the comments? Were there good comments?
I did. Some of them were. Let me bring it up. Some of them were a little bit critical of. So last week, for anyone who doesn't know or anyone who didn't listen, we talked about the Oscar nominations and kind of our thought process behind it. A lot of it was talking about Green Book and how they felt that Green Book is. That's incorrect. How they felt that Green Book wasn't as bad as people were saying it was. Or the conversation around it was as bad as people were saying it was. And these comments, guys, just so you know, is left on the YouTube channel. So if you ever want to...
YouTube channel.
First Cut?
Yeah.
So if you ever want to leave us a comment, let us know. Let's start with...
The majority of our fans are on Collider Factory. So if you want to see our beautiful faces, please subscribe to First Cut on YouTube.
Max Hackham has a comment, says, love the episode, but personally, I don't think you should bash on a movie or say it didn't deserve a nomination if you haven't seen it. It's very easy to form opinions based off criticism of others, but I don't think it's fair to the film or filmmakers to have criticism about the quality of a film if you've never seen it. I understand if you disagree with the themes, messages, or subject matter, but the actual quality of a film shouldn't be criticized if you haven't seen it for yourself and gathered your own opinions. This is something I notice a lot and usually bothers me. It's not just you guys, but if you... have a rebuttal to my reasoning, then I would love to hear it. Big fan of the podcast.
Yeah. So that's mostly at me. That's what you're saying.
It is.
Yeah. So I would like to
I do that too, to be honest, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it last year with
Three
Billboards.
Yeah.
I was bashing the crap out of that movie. But again, I wasn't bashing the quality. I was bashing the themes of the movie.
Right. Well, it's not. See, that's where I also find, if the Academy Award, this is my rebuttal, Max. So like, with all due respect, my thing is, if the Academy Awards was basing their picks off of quality, then yes, I wouldn't be making the arguments that I make. But the fact of the matter is, the Academy Awards are not about the quality of the movies. They are by design, by its original design, supposed to reflect what was the best of Hollywood, and it's also supposed to represent, and it's also representing what studios want to prop up as what they believe quality represents. And when you have a movie like Green Book that's retroactively going against what the current climate of Hollywood is, where we have Black Panther making $1 billion, where we have, Black Klansman and Spike Lee finally getting the long-deserved Oscar nomination that he rightfully deserves, even 30 years after the fact, after Do the Right Thing. That now we see movies like Creed 2 being huge box office hits, Into the Spider-Verse being an international global success. The climate of Hollywood is clearly shifting in one direction, and then nominating a movie like Green Book is almost like a middle finger to that progression. So that's why I personally argue against Green Book as a contender. But again, And if it was based on quality, I have nothing bad to say about the movie's quality. It's probably a great movie. It probably is a great movie. I just haven't seen it. And but again, if the Oscars don't base what they pick off of quality, I mean, that's just the history. That's facts. It's whatever narrative, and it's also based on whatever narrative that the categories in and of themselves are pushing. Like,
Yeah.
even,
And I think people tend to forget that.
Yeah. Even, I mean, outside of Best Picture, again, it's always the best the best actors or actress. Like, oh, it's always the classic actor versus the newcomer. That's always the narrative they want to paint, even though the third performance that's overlooked is often the best one. So again, like if it was just based on quality, then I would have no problems. But the Academy is based on what Hollywood represents. And when we have the history book of Oscar nominees and we look back to 2018 and we see what the box office legacy of 2018 left, what the filmmakers that 2018 bred, and we look at the Best Picture nominees and we see a movie like Green Book in there, then it's like, yeah, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, we could talk all day about Bohemian Rhapsody, but...
I don't know if I do. Part of me does want to, man, because I was talking to my roommate about it last night. It's one of those stories, man, that people don't seem to be talking about, and it's kind of upsetting me, to be honest, especially when film Twitter gets upset about so many other things and has so many different conversations, or even, you know, Twitter in general talking about stuff with...
I saw there was a big outrage this weekend about Ted Bundy. Did you see that?
Yeah. I mean, with the movie that came out, because it premiered at Sundance.
And then a lot of people were criticizing it for glorifying serial killers.
I'm kind of in that boat, man.
Really?
I'll still watch the movie, and I'll probably maybe I'll enjoy it. I don't know. I just feel like Hollywood needs to stop. It just needs to stop being fascinated with perverted, weird people who, I don't know, man. I mean, if you know the history of Ted, like, why? Like, I just don't see that. That's the kind of stuff that we need to disconnect from right now, in my opinion. And the stuff with Bryan Singer, to me, should be on every freaking news outlet. It should be covered all over it should be like the biggest story right now. And I'm saying the biggest story in the world right now. I mean, did you read the article?
Yeah, I read it. Yeah, I read that shit.
The guy's basically like a human sex trafficker. Like he's basically running like a sex trafficking ring. Like it's like
the whole house with
the house that he would get, and just it's
a production company.
It's next level. This guy is like the freaking. I told my roommate, he's like the Pablo Escobar of like sex trafficking, and he's gonna win an Oscar.
No, he's not gonna win.
No,
an
but
Oscar.
I'm saying like his movie's gonna win an Oscar. Like, come on, man.
I mean, that's also
like don't start with that. I don't. To me, this is the stuff that Hollywood should get behind. It should get behind the condemnation of severe, awful pedophilia to the level of putting down these children, these little boys, man. I don't know. To me, this is the story that Hollywood should cover. And for some reason, people are very quiet about it. People are very defensive about Bohemian Rhapsody. And it's like, come on, man. I don't know what's going on, but... this is the kind of stuff we got to correct.
I mean, I don't know what's up with Hollywood and pedophilia, but I did see our boys Edgar Wright and Chris Miller, who we both did episodes on. They said they wanted James Gunn back to direct Guardians 3. I mean, that's some pretty pedophilia-driven stuff James Gunn was tweeting out there, man. I do have a question for Edgar Wright and Chris Miller. What are you guys' thoughts on Kevin Hart? Because I do really want to know if they are going to hold the same principle. Because like I said before on the Coen Brothers episode, fire them both. I don't like Kevin Hart hosting the Oscars. I don't like James Gunn directing Guardians 3 because that's some sick shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to say that what Kevin Hart said is even remotely quantifiably worse than anything that James Gunn said, you're sick. Like that's remotely ridiculous.
Yeah.
James Gunn was making tweets about touching little boys, and he went to parties dressed as a child pedophilia and all that stuff. Like, how is that not sickness that we're going to keep promoting? But is it because we like James Gunn more? Is it because James Gunn is white and Kevin Hart is black? I mean, that sounds like white privilege if you ask me. So but then we see no public outcry for rehiring Kevin Hart. So shit like that, it boggles my mind a little bit, but it does get me thinking, like, of this whole pedophilia angle. Like, is Hollywood really? I mean, that whole documentary came out a few years ago. The one with Singer. What is that shit called?
I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, I think there's really something going on here, man.
Yeah. After that article, man, I'm at a point now where I've had conversations with a friend of mine who was a Hollywood producer friend of mine he told me some stuff, let's just say that. And he was just like an open book. And when he was telling me all this stuff, I was, and this was like a year and a half ago, when he mentioned Singer to me, I was like, you tripping, man. But now I'm like, maybe he was right. Maybe there is some stuff going on in the background that, because to me, this is the type of conversations. And to go back to your Kevin Hart one, yeah, I wasn't in that episode when you talked about it with Brian, just because I feel. But then again, I could counter your point with all the stuff that, I don't know if you were on Twitter today, man, with all the stuff that came out about, what's his name, Jesse.
Jesse. And that's exactly why I think Kevin Hart should have been fired. That's exactly why. We can't keep promoting homophobia in the black community.
Well, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people in the African American community were speaking out against, obviously, what went down today. But I'm saying this is like they doubled down on the Kevin Hart thing. That's what I'm saying.
But nobody's doubling down on James Gunn when the Bryan Singer stuff breaks, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So it's like we're willing to, and a lot of black people too. We stand by our principles, and we're gonna bash shit out when it's bad for the most part, Yeah. But then when it comes to some white director, even on a broader sense, when it comes to a lot of politicians or whatever, like anything where somebody does something controversial, you're more likely to get away with it if you're a fair complexion, as opposed to if your blood is African descent, So that's just always. I mean, and it's just exposing itself more and more now as we are, as things continue to go on.
There's definitely a double standard there, and you can definitely see it, especially within the Hollywood community. Right. That it's the loudest voices. I mean, again, we're stepping on so many toes, but whatever. At this point, the loudest voices tend to be the whitest voices. Let's just say that. I don't know if you've noticed that. Yeah. The people who spoke against Kevin Hart the most, to me, I was like, these are all white people speaking out against Kevin Hart. I barely saw, but this was coming from me. The people who usually get the most upset about this kind of stuff is like white people, and I'm like, all right, that's cool, but I mean, you're going a little hard. And you didn't go hard on James Gunn.
Meanwhile, I see literal film critics putting hashtag rehire James Gunn in their Twitter name. Like, I don't get it. I don't know.
There's definitely a line, and I think especially shout out to the Atlantic.
For breaking that story.
I plead with everyone to read that article. It's a disturbing read. It's very difficult, but it's one of the most important stories in the world that I think everyone should talk about. Because like I told my friend, these are the type of stories you hear coming out of like the Philippines and out of other stories, like really dark stuff coming in other countries that have dealt with this kind of stuff. However, this is a guy who literally has a movie nominated for Best Picture. Like, this is the kind of stuff that it gets me upset, because it's like, as evil as these drug traffickers are and these sex traffickers are, they're not winning Oscars, man. Like, this is stuff that in my opinion, we're even if it's Rami Malek, even if it's it didn't have anything to do with it. It's the editor. He didn't have anything to do with it. It's the actor. He didn't have anything to do with it. Honestly, man, I think at this point, there's got to be a line where we draw, where we say, you know what? You're probably right. Most of these people didn't have anything to do with it. But at the same time, there's got to be a line to be drawn when it comes to sexual predators and pedophilia and in the evils that this guy committed, that, you know what? Let's do what Glad did and pull it. I honestly would be so up for that. Because at this point,
I would pull it.
There's too much.
I wouldn't pull it for the best actor or for best editing, even though I don't think it deserves the best editing. Yeah. But I wouldn't pull it for those nominees only because those are rewarding specific people. Those are rewarding, and of course, Best Picture rewards the Best Picture rewards the producers, but it's a reward for the film. It's a reward for the film. Whereas I feel like Rami Malek, even though I don't even know if he should win, but like
even then, like I don't know, man. Him being like, oh, I didn't know any. It's like, bro, come on. Like if I knew that before I even came to Hollywood, like this guy's been doing this since like everyone knew that, man. Like I don't know. But, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way to be like, don't start with that, man.
But then I just don't think like you should rip awards away from specific individuals, or at least awards nominations from specific individuals. Like I still think we do got to celebrate the sound people, the editing people. I think even to some extent, because even though they, in some ways, enabled the behavior or at least collaborated to that extent, there is something to be said about like the power that Bryan Singer had over these people, right? There's something to be said about, how much, when people have so much money like Bryan Singer got, when you cut $10 million checks to people, it's hard to come out and expose them because you got lawyers, you got people going to end your career. You got producers saying if you're going to speak up, we're going to end your career.
But to me, I think now in this time, 2019, we're starting a new year. We have to, and by we I mean everyone in this damn city and everyone in this damn country has to draw a line and say this is not acceptable. When the producer of the Red Sonja movie was asked, is Bryan Singer going to still be on this movie? And he said, hell yeah, he is. Look at Bohemian Rhapsody. It's nominated for all these Oscars. As if that's more important than the lives of these victims that have been destroyed forever for being destroyed by this man who literally treated them as if they were property and would drug them up and pass them along as if they were in an assembly line. Like, that's the darkest thing I've ever heard. And these are 16 and 17 and 14-year-olds. And it's, you're going to keep him on the movie because his other movie got nominated? That's even more reason for me to pull it. To me, it should be pulled because this sets precedent for it to be okay or for it to be brushed under the rug because it's an Oscar director. That gets me upset because it's one thing if we're speaking out against it. It's another thing if you're rewarding the movie.
Right.
That
was my point in saying that. Then that's a separate point from the Green Book point that I'm making.
Yeah.
But it's the overall general premise of like it's not necessarily the quality of the movie. It's about what these you're rewarding. You're rewarding things that are counter to our culture at the current moment. Like we're gonna look back in the history books at 2018 and say that for one, this is the year that we nominated a movie directed by a child pedophile after the incredible Me Too movement. 2, this is the year we nominated Green Book after an incredible sweeping wave of black cinema. 3, we don't even show the technical categories during the telecast. 4, we're only showing 2 songs. 5, we don't have a host. Hey, damn, what is this Academy Awards adding up to, Ace? Are we heading into potentially the worst Academy Awards? At least of all time, man.
I think so, man. and it's one of those things too where you were talking about the quality of the film. It's just I think people are really getting lost on certain conversations and certain things that are happening within the Academy, within the Oscar, within whatever you want to call it, this kind of film bait movies conversation where I saw so many think pieces and so many videos and so many tweets talking about Black Panther and Black Panther and Black Panther. Get Black Panther out of there. It doesn't deserve it. Doesn't deserve it. Doesn't deserve it. That's why I put that tweet out. I'm like, deserve? I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody doesn't deserve it. That's a so-so movie.
See,
so many of these movies don't deserve to be up there. It's all politics, man. Like get it out of your head about deserve.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's why I asked the question last week. Does these awards really matter? Like
it has nothing to do with quality. It has nothing to do with quality. I'm not saying that the movies nominated don't have quality. I'm simply saying that it's not purely on a qualitative basis.
Right.
Because it's not. It hasn't been for some time. So I think that conversation needs to stop about Black Panther because I'm like, it was okay. So was half those movies. Half those movies were okay. I mean, I can literally name half the movies nominated for Best Picture were okay movies. And I think a lot of people would agree with me, and I think a lot of people would disagree with me.
A lot of people are saying this is the worst crop of Best Picture nominees in a long time.
Yeah, man.
But it's tough. I mean, that's just where Hollywood's at, but
I don't think it should be. I really do feel like there's this disconnect right now within the Hollywood community that for some reason decides to choose their outrage moments and chooses their outrage times. But when it comes to 50 victims, witnesses that can literally put in place where this human being was destroying lives, I'm like, how is this not the biggest story in the world right now? Like that to me is like I
money,
said,
man.
it's like some Pablo Escobar type shit, bro.
Yeah, it's money and
like
power.
that's evil, man.
It's money and power.
Money and power, man. And it's disturbing because it sets a precedent, like I said before.
That's the Weinstein. I mean, that was what I was saying last week. That's exactly what I was saying last week with Weinstein. Like he kept winning Oscars, kept winning Oscars, kept winning Oscars, kept winning Oscars. This dude was untouchable. And even back in the 90s when he literally was fighting rape cases, he was able to pay off lawyers, do this.
Yeah.
The studio backed it because, of course, they're going to back it because he's pulling in racks of money, tons of Oscars. But then as soon as 2017, 2018 hits, you don't see any of his movies getting any recognition. You see his bank account start running a little low. And then he gets out. Same thing with R. Kelly. They said R. Kelly's net worth is like $1 million. So of course now would be the time to strike when they do the Surviving R. Kelly whole documentary sweep and they get him out of here, you know. So we just gotta find a way to hurt Bryan Singer's pocketbooks, but they're not hurting them. They just gave him $100 million deal.
That's what I'm saying. Tell me why I'm freaking out about this, because everyone should be freaking out about this, man. Why in this hashtag Me Too movement are we seeing people fall like Kevin Hart, like Aziz Ansari, like all
Kevin Hart didn't really fall. He's still
true.
Out there,
I agree with you on that. But people like Aziz Ansari, people like other people who've been involved in this Me Too movement over the past 2 years, as far as being called out and being pushed down, you could, for the most part, deservingly so. But at the same time, I'm telling my friend last night, I'm like, bro, there's levels to this game. And when you're running a freaking sex pedophile ring, like that's a different level than, you know, what Aziz Ansari is doing. Like I'm sorry to bring that up, but it's the truth, man. How is Bryan Singer getting away with it, but not Aziz Ansari? Like, where is this? Dude, it's too much for me to be like, oh, it's coincidence. It's not coincidence. It's straight up like a cover up like I've never seen. Yeah. But yeah, sorry about that rant, but I really do feel like.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shyamalan, if you're watching this episode.
Oh, yeah. That's like a different level, bro.
30 minutes into the episode.
Hey, man, at least he doesn't have anything like that on his name.
Yeah, no, we love you, Shyamalan. Thank you for not being a perv.
Yeah, seriously. That's all we ask.
That's all we ask.
That's literally all we ask. Apologies ahead of time, guys, but again, I'm going to double down on the importance of this story. I really do feel like it's important, and if we've heard this from any other person, from any other part of the world, this would be the biggest story in the world. But since it's a Hollywood rich white guy who gets so many powerful producers and Oscar-nominated movies, we hear jack shit. And that to me is so upsetting, and it's the biggest problem within this city, within the Hollywood world, within the movie business itself. Is that's the biggest issue right now, and I think it should be talked about.
Yeah, no, 100%.
With that, guys, let's move on to the career of M. Night Shyamalan.
There we go.
And before we do so, I kind of want to have a general conversation on the premise of this podcast. And I really want to put someone like an M. Night Shyamalan, to me, the perfect example of that, at the forefront, because this podcast is generated around conversation on a director, meaning the auteur theory, meaning that not only is it a piece of art not only is the piece of art something that can be taken in by an audience and interpreted by an audience, but a piece of art being an actual
a body of work.
And staple, almost like a watermark, almost like something that's left on each piece of art by the artist. And when it comes to a director, something that's much more different than, let's say, a painting or any other type of art form that is much more substantial and something that you can, grab and feel and hang up on your wall. Whereas a movie, there's interpretations, there's background, there's so many different factors that come into interpreting and taking in a quality of a movie. But when it comes to now, the day and age we live in now in Hollywood versus the 60s or 70s or versus any other time period, where a director is synonymous with their movie, where we think about a director and we think about their movie. What do you think about these types of topics, RB3, and especially when it comes to someone like M. Night Shyamalan? Because I feel like nowadays, public perception, public opinion, and honestly, just fame in general, famous directors for being famous for making great movies. Obviously, the biggest example of that is Steven Spielberg. Someone could also say George Lucas being the biggest example of that. But I would say Spielberg is probably the staple of when someone, average, middle of America person, thinks of a director, they think of Steven Spielberg. M. Night Shyamalan, also got that type of popularity, and it was based on the coverage, the media coverage based on him. When he made The Sixth Sense, obviously that was like his breakout film, something that gave him a name recognition. And in the following movies, it's a very interesting story, to say the least. Interesting is a loose word, I guess I could say. It's a telling story about the coverage of a director and about the quality of their films being synonymous with their name, right? The irony of M. Night Shyamalan back, when he was making The Sixth Sense, and M. Night Shyamalan when people would laugh in trailers.
Yeah,
during
After Earth.
And After Earth. And people would literally laugh in the audience when they would see that name pop up.
Yeah.
This is the true rise and fall of the auteur
And
theory.
rise again.
Yeah, and rise again. Like, this is the true story of auteur theory, of someone who's connected to their movie so much so that the artist is blamed when it's bad and it's given all the praise when it's good.
Yeah, I mean, the whole, so here's, it's funny, you come in, saying this and having this discussion, because we don't really talk about this show.
We don't.
Before we record it. We just literally turn on the button, start talking. Yeah.
I kind of like it like that.
Yeah, it's good, though.
That's the only reason why I don't do it, is because I don't want to give you notes and stuff of mine. Yeah.
But it's fascinating because I have been just in my film classes in general, we've been exploring the auteur theory. It's consistently, all through my 4 years of film school, we've always kind of tackled the idea of the auteur theory. But very specifically in the last couple of weeks. And for me, it's fascinating because I think that when I first started film school, I was a very hard believer of an auteur is a director who makes the film and it's his film and that's it. And every film that he makes is all him. And upon being in film school for as long as I've been in, I kind of regressed up from that position. Internally, I kind of think that it's a lot of other elements that we should incorporate into a film other than just this director. I mean, of course, on the surface level, we're talking about writers, actors, editors, how they change movies and how they add their voice in there, and cinematographers, how that would change or make differences in movies. But even on a much broader scale, we also got to think about socio-economical climates that we're in, right? How a director and how a French director in the 1950s is more influenced by the unoccupation of the post World War II, how they are being liberated, how somebody in post World War II Italy kind of has to how that whole ideology reshapes after occupation there. So it's things like that or even to contemporary examples, how someone like a Jordan Peele goes from writing and directing Key and Peele sketches to making a movie like Get Out. How somebody like a Michael Bay, as much as we talk about Michael Bay and shit on Michael Bay, how his filmography also represents a separate slice of American as a separate slice of Americana exceptionalism, right? Like how his movies represent a certain place of American and a certain place of not just American but like meritocracy, like how his films represent like a more of like a masculine, like, oh, you have to go out there and do your thing. They're action movies, like Bad Boys and shit like that. How his movies represent that, but then on the flip side, you have a director like Spike Lee, whose movies are all are all politically relevant in terms of like police brutality and all that. So it's a lot of flip sides to what the auteur theory in and of itself can actually mean, because the inside world of the film and the outside world can have almost as much of an effect as anything. And then especially during this time, we have Pixar is almost the exact contradiction to the auteur theory, because even though they have like a director and a writer, that's like, the name of the film, a lot of times their movies are developed in groups. Like a lot of times they have a lot of people involved in the writing process. They have a lot of people involved in the animation process and the storyboarding process. And, they basically make the whole movie before they even start animating it. So stuff like that really gets you thinking about what being an auteur really means. But in a particular case, and, a lot of old journalists kind of argue against the auteur theory too, because it promotes like this level of elitism in film culture, how, and, you know, especially during the old times when, you know, a lot of this auteur theory stuff started to come up, 1950s, 1960s, some in America through this critic named Andrew Sarris, a lot in France through Francis Truffaut, and even he and Hitchcock kind of collaborated and talked a little bit about auteur theory in America. So all of that all kind of wrapped up. It's always promoted like the idea of like the man director, because at the time there's no woman director and there's really no people of color directing. So what the auteur theory was essentially saying is, it will essentially promote it was exceptionalism amongst the white male directors who are making these movies.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, there is a case to argue for the auteur theory too, right? In the sense that if we don't have what we consider as auteurs, we're just going to get basic formula studio movies that we're getting in the 1940s, 1950s.
Sure.
And even we're seeing... Which we do have today, and we have a lot of those today.
We have a lot of those.
Yeah. But then the auteur theory also allows space for people like Coen Brothers, people like, you know, to some extent, you know, I think somebody like a Ryan Coogler kind of falls almost not in the middle, but he has a very distinct style, but it's also, he does have a very broad kind of commercial, you know, appeal to him as well. But you know, but even especially somebody like M. Night, Tarantino is the perfect example of like the quintessential like American auteur that we think of today. Yeah. But even his movies are, you could argue his movies are mostly stolen from other movies. So
or tributes to other movies is the other word you would use.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, right? Because you think of the auteur theory when it's placed into something, like I said before, when it comes to actual physical arts like paintings or let's say a book, which is very much an artist sits down and does what he wants to do.
It's an individual thing.
It's an individual work, whereas making a movie is the most collaborative art form there is, right? It's literally a collaboration. Obviously, there's music as well. It's very collaborative. But making a film is probably one of the most, if not the most collaborative work of art, because it is a work of art technically. Or is it? I mean, have we come to a point now where film is purely commercial and it's purely based to sell you on something?
Art is commercial.
That's
art has
true.
always been commercial.
That's true, but movies specifically, I feel like have become purely in a capitalistic sense of in order to achieve some sort of purpose. I mean, obviously, I disagree with that because I do feel like otherwise we wouldn't have this podcast.
Right.
I feel like there is, like you said, good to it, and there can be bad to it. And like you said, the negative to it is this exceptionalism. This I actually want to add to that this elitism, but also the worship of these artists that I feel like can be
idolization.
It can be very dangerous.
Yes.
One of the reasons, and there's a lot, but one of the reasons why I hated Ready Player One last year was one of those reasons why I hated the idea of this bizarre religion worship around this artist that made this video game world. It just felt so odd and so bizarre to me. But yet again, it could possibly happen. But the fact that it was brushed along like, oh yeah, he's God because he made a video game world, like it
because
felt,
he had all that money for making that video game.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's why I hated this movie, because it felt like this kind of worship of this capitalistic, nerdy, genius white guy who watches over us with his grace and power that he left down on us. And it's like we can worship him by remembering his memories. And I was like, what is this? I felt so put off by it. I was like, are you serious? This is some dark.
That's
post-apocalyptic.
That's why I liked it. I mean, I thought it was
but it wasn't.
dark.
It wasn't played that way. It wasn't played dark. It was played very much like benevolent. He's a benevolent, loving father watching over us. And I was like, no, he's not. This is some weird worship of our idea. Like you said, idolization of the perfect. Nerdy guy that everyone feels like, oh, I'm a nerdy guy and I can't do it. Well, he was a nerd too. And it's like, yeah, but that's not that shouldn't be where our
But it's believable. I can totally, I can see
it was not, but he was literally God, and I was like, are we serious? We're making another God?
No, I could see somebody. No, he wasn't God. He
was
programmed
God.
himself as God. He programmed himself as God.
That's
in
what
this
I'm
video.
saying.
I could totally see. I could see.
He literally comes out in a robe and shines.
This is what I'm saying. I could see tomorrow. Elon Musk releasing a VR headset game where he programs himself as God, and
but
at
that's
the end
supposed to be good.
But I could totally see the world falling for it if at the end of the game you win $1 billion. Like,
sure.
I could totally see the world falling for that.
I can, yeah, but I think it's evil.
Yeah, it is evil, and that's why.
But it's played as beautiful in the movie. It's worship. You're getting closer to the Lord and Savior of this video game maker, and I was like, what? No.
The book's way worse. The book's way worse. By the way,
I heard. But I was like, this is no way for me. That's a point off for this movie. But anyways, that's one of the reasons why I hated it. But it really is this bizarre fascination that and it comes, RB3, back to our first conversation. It comes to the point where our reverence and our worship of this person, whether it be because of the quality of their films or the money that these films make, becomes so powerful that now that power has gone to their head to the point now that they feel like they can do whatever they want. And with the money and the power that they have, guess what? They can do whatever they want. We have so many cautionary tales about this. But again, Quentin Tarantino is another guy. I mean, he's known for being crazy on set. Most of these directors that we talk about, Michael Bay is known for being crazy on set. I've been on set with some directors, and I thought it was, it's over the top and it's a myth. It's not a myth. These directors really do feel like they have the power and the authority to demean people, to abuse people, to scream at people, to undermine people, to screw people over because they're an artist. And that is very disturbing within itself because that's what the Hollywood system has been built around now. I don't know. That to me is that's when the auteur theory becomes very dangerous. And it can be very dangerous. It can be good, but dangerous.
I think that's what led to where we have Shyamalan now. I mean, that's why, at least like Shyamalan to his downfall, right? Because there's a lot of the reasons why people have turned against Shyamalan, or at least a lot of the stories have been that he has he's very much his own force. Like, he doesn't want any kind of studio interference, any kind of notes. I mean, of course, you should be after you make something as dope as The Sixth Sense, though, to some extent. But I guess, that's always going to be a great filmmaker's downfall, is not being able to listen to some extent. And I never want to tell somebody no, you have to listen to what somebody else says, because I think for artists, you have to. It's totally up to the artists in and of themselves, their ability to collaborate, what they want to bring to the table, how personal the story is to them. But for someone for M. Night, and when you're on the cover of Time magazine and you're being called the next Steven Spielberg, you're gonna that's gonna float to your head, and you're gonna feel that way. So it's no slight at him that he would feel as great as he does. But then I think particularly in his later movies, not in his later movies, I think throughout his filmography, a lot of his films just end up becoming him criticizing people who criticize his movies. I think that's a very big point, and something like Lady in the Water. That's a very big point, and a new release film that he has that we're not going to talk about. And I think he loves poking the fun at I'm an artist and you're not an artist, and let me just tell you how much of a dope artist I am because you're a critic. And it's not even just that, but that's you always get that little slimy little feeling throughout all of his films, at least a lot of his latter films, at least.
Yeah, and it's interesting now because usually when that happens around a film, public perception is usually for the director. Anytime we hear of a falling out between a studio and a director, whose side do the people take? It's almost always the director. Hardly have I heard, the studio was right. And it's no, usually we hear,
release the Snyder Cut.
Release the Snyder Cut. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Josh Trank, all these directors who had a huge falling out with the studio in the movie, to the point where, we never take the side of the collaborative effort. We take the side of the auteur theory. Let them do what they want to do because they're the artist. Yeah. That's the side we take.
Well, also, I think I think also that's a little bit of like the studio is seen as the suits. You know, the studio is seen as like the elites who are taking advantage of this artist. So yeah, it's the auteur theory does promote elitism, but it also does to some extent protect artistry to some extent. You know, I think you know, something like talking about Zack Snyder, he's the perfect example of somebody who's an auteur that I think most people who are critics or enjoy, who are cinephiles or you know, a lot of people don't enjoy his work, just to be frank, and I don't think they would be so willing to hand him that auteur title as I'm willing to, because I think, but then again, I don't even know if we should actually even look at directors as auteurs, because like I said, it's like there's so much more that we got to consider. But I think that somebody like a Zack Snyder, if anybody fits into the definition of what an auteur is, there's Zack Snyder, there's Michael Bay,
Quentin Tarantino.
There's Tarantino, but I mean I'm talking about like bad, you know, people who are normally seen as bad directors.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Shyamalan is
a perfect example.
Yeah,
People hate his movies.
Yeah, but to me, he's a very clear auteur because he does have the very consistent. He has a very consistent style, and he has a very consistent twist that he likes to put on all of his movies. So.
Yeah, I mean, something I want to say too, and it's another shout out. I give shout outs a lot on this podcast. I want to give a shout out to someone I've mentioned before on this podcast, Lindsay Ellis.
Oh yeah,
YouTuber.
I've been binging a lot of her shit. Yeah.
She has a lot of videos about auteur theory, specifically Michael Bay. She recently, and by recently I feel like a month ago, did a video of Death of the Author.
I haven't seen that one.
Which is, you should check it out, which is literally all about this. It's about how let the author die and let the work be interpreted of itself and the worship of the author.
Yes,
and she mainly takes it back to J.K. Rowling with the Harry Potter franchise and how she's like changing stuff now on her Twitter, and she can just do that because it's J.K. Rowling and no one can say anything. And it's a really interesting video. She interviews the guy who wrote Fault in Our Stars.
Oh really?
Hank Green.
Hank Green, yeah. That's right.
And she talks a little bit about the auteur theory with him and the death of the author. So if anyone wants to check it out, go on YouTube and check out Lindsay Ellis. She has great videos about this conversation.
She's great. I actually saw she did a 3-parter on the Hobbit franchise.
Right. Yeah.
Did you see those videos?
I haven't seen.
Nah, those rocked me to my core, because like the first 2 are just like talking about the movies.
Yeah.
And then the third one's like actually talking about like the geopolitics of like, there was like a whole thing with the New Zealand film industry and how the Hobbit films like literally destroyed like their entire film industry. And it was like it like literally like there's few documentaries that I'll like watch that like really rock me, but that one was like, oh fuck, like,
yeah,
because she interviewed people like crew people and shit like that. It was just crazy, like it was insane.
No, shout out to her. She makes some great stuff.
USC too, by the way.
USC.
Yeah.
Let's go into the rise and fall of Shyamalan, starting with The Sixth Sense. This is the rise. Yeah. This is what made him a named director. What is it about this movie that people consider to be so great, RB3?
Well, I think outside of the twist, I mean, everybody remembers the twist.
Yeah, at this point, even if you haven't seen the movie, you know the twist.
The twist is the twist. But I think outside of the twist is actually a really great movie in and of itself. Of course, there's Harry Joe Osment as the kid, Bruce Willis as the therapist, and I think what really this film showed, and I think why people are willing to hand Shyamalan the auteur kind of serious, because he takes a lot directly from Hitchcock. Like, this is a very Hitchcockian type of film in the sense that like a lot of elements are introduced very sneakily, like through dialogues, very dialogue heavy, and it's also a lot about the range of morality, right? Like how, like, it really makes you question what is moral, what is good. Is it a lot of the ghosts that we've seen are people who have dealt with individual trauma, and I think that's also a consistent theme through Shyamalan's work is trauma, right? How trauma inflicts and how trauma affects a person, and how that effect on that person influences the character's decisions throughout the entire movie. So he plays a lot on that. When they say next Steven Spielberg, like that's I think a more appropriate comparison would be the Hitchcock one because this does feel very similar to a Hitchcockian.
I feel like that would even be more pretentious.
Yeah,
the Time magazine be the next Hitchcock. Oh,
no.
Okay,
That's heavy, but I mean, really, Hitchcock was one of the original people who promoted the auteur theory.
That's
as well.
100% true.
But I think in terms of Shyamalan's style, The Sixth Sense is really successful because it tells a genuinely great story without the twist, and then with the twist, it just adds in a completely different layer. So it's like it's like two magic tricks that you're pulling off at once. And there's even a moment in the film where the main character, I don't remember any of the characters' names, but where Haley Joel Osment and Bruce Willis are talking to each other, and they're talking about a magic trick with like the penny in the hand, and like how the penny stays in like one hand even though he's like moving it all around or whatever. But it's a magic trick, it's diversion, right? I think that's Shyamalan's reflective way of saying like, yeah, this is the trick I'm playing on you. You're looking this way, but really you should be looking over here. And I think that's just to some extent that's really brilliant. But the fact that this movie still really like stands up like on its own and it still has a really deeply eerie kind of sense to it as well is really dope.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the aftermath of The Sixth Sense and what happened to his career after this. He blew up like crazy.
This movie was nominated for Best Picture.
It was nominated.
Best Director.
So was Haley Joel, wasn't he?
Yeah, youngest actor nominated for Best Supporting Actor, if I'm not mistaken.
And after that's when you got the Time magazine article. That's when you got the M. Night Shyamalan commercials promoting him to be, from the creative mind of M. Night Shyamalan. What everyone, like I said before, laughed at, recently. Back in that time, they were like, "Oh crap, what is he going to come out with next?" And that was Unbreakable, RB3. And I believe the reviews for it were mainly positive reviews.
Yeah. A lot of people love Unbreakable.
Yeah.
This is.
What do you think about this?
Tarantino's gone on record saying this is his favorite superhero movie multiple times as well.
There you go.
But yeah, this is my personal favorite Shyamalan's filmography. For me, this is clear by far and away. His best film, and not just because of course we love comic book.
Yeah, I was gonna say this came out in 2000.
Yeah,
which is the same year that X-Men came out.
Yeah, but this is when shit like this was unmarketable. Like you couldn't market
that's true
a movie because it was based on the comic book. In fact, it was the exact opposite. The studios didn't want him to make this movie because it was like a comic inspired movie. It wasn't even based on anything, but they were just like, and that was like a double whammy because it was like it wasn't based on anything, so people. It wasn't based on anything, so it wasn't like an IP to sell, but it was very comic book heavy. So it was like, what the fuck were they gonna do with it, So, but it was Disney, and Disney released it under Touchstone Pictures, which is actually really dope of them to do because I think, and this movie's rated PG-13, right? All of Shyamalan's movies are rated PG-13.
I don't think. Let's see. As far as all of them, I don't know.
But
Unbreakable, yes.
Even Glass rated PG-13.
Yeah,
because now I'm looking at it like that could have been a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, I think it was PG-13.
That's crazy. Okay, but it's crazy to me that his movies are as dark in subject matter as they are, and still manage to hold a PG-13 rating.
And they're still regarded as like horror movies, right?
Yeah. I mean,
The Visit, isn't that R?
But
it's PG-13.
That's PG-13. All of his movies are PG-13. But that's amazing to me because when you look at something like Unbreakable opens with a massive train wreck, but you don't see the train wreck. And what Shyamalan is telling you, and what Shyamalan continues to tell you throughout his entire filmography, is that the big action, the explosions, that stuff you don't need to see. That's not what's essential to the story. What's essential to the story is how these events are affecting the characters and how these characters interact under these circumstances. For this to be a so-called superhero movie, this is basically like an independent feature for a lot of it. I mean, it's very low budget, it's mostly talking, mostly dialogue inspired, but then the greater context of the actions are a lot bigger, and have much higher ramifications. So I think that's brilliant in the way that he approaches the material from that angle. I also think this is his best directed film. It's like creative shot after creative shot after creative shot. There's the one take when when Bruce Willis first gets on the train and it's in between the seats and the camera moves back and forth between seeing Bruce Willis, the person he's sitting with. Then it goes to the scene where he's in the hospital, and then like him and the doctor having a conversation, and the camera slowly pushes in, and the background, the person, there's a person in the white sheet, and the blood is just gushing out from the sheet, but like just very slowly. It's perfect. It's like almost every shot was inspired. The weightlifting scene, when the camera pulls up and down as he's like lifting the weights, all of it is just like very. He was killing it with the directing. So yeah, this is my favorite.
So you think from The Sixth Sense following that up with Unbreakable, this is him hitting back-to-back game winners?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I don't know the box office performance of Unbreakable.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I
this
don't think
one
it
was a
did
hit.
that. I think it did okay.
Right. But I mean, for considering 2000s comic book superheroes, that was seen as like a red flag for Hollywood, is unmarketable. It had to perform, at least to some extent, pretty decent.
Yeah, and it's also a definition on what he defines himself genre-wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was doing Sixth Sense to Unbreakable to Signs. Genre-wise, he's been trying to do. You can tell it's similar, but it's still different enough to where you can respect
they're all psychological thrillers, but
Yeah.
they incorporate other genres. I feel like Sixth Sense is the psychological thriller meets the melodrama. This, Unbreakable is psychological thriller meets superheroes. Signs is psychological thriller meets straight up sci-fi. I mean, that's alien invasion.
And what do you think of this one as a follow-up to Unbreakable?
This is also a great one. I mean, this is why I might have to be a little bit of a defender for Shyamalan in this episode. But I personally, for me, I always have a rule with directors, like if you make three hits, then you are a bona fide success. Like if you only have one good movie, then you're kind of a one hit wonder to some extent. Like not to criticize any one hit wonder directors, but there are some directors who very clearly have that one movie and made nothing else good. But to me, when you make three, you get that class of like you're this is you're not a fluke,
Yeah.
And this is the third one where you're like, yeah, this is
And
sick.
he hit it back to back to back.
Yeah, but again,
Repeat.
people criticize. I mean, The Sixth Sense didn't really have an ending that you could really criticize, because it kind of the twist came in the middle. The twist came in the middle for The Sixth Sense. So the rest of the movie kind of played out and had a satisfying resolution. A lot of people don't like the twist at the end of Unbreakable. The fact that Mr. Glass is behind all these terrorist attacks, and which, by the way, I didn't even say this, but I think what's even nicer about Unbreakable is how it's a mythologization of superheroes, but it's almost a demytholization as well, because it does say that if these superheroes were to exist in real life, they wouldn't be some grandiose like Superman jumping high from the sky. They would just be like normal, basically almost normal people, and how if that really warrants like any idolization. But going back to the ending of that was largely criticized,
And
the ending of Signs is largely criticized as well, because of the whole water thing, how the aliens, which I think that's an unnecessary criticism. I think that's not a fair.
You think it works, the water thing?
I think it works, but I don't think you should like. I don't know. I don't really care if it works. Like honestly, like there's so much else great in the movie, and I think that to me, I'm really against this whole like nitpicky film criticism culture that we're in, and I think people have a field day. Like I actually really like the channel Your Movie Sucks. I don't know if you heard of that.
I have, and I've never
Yeah.
clicked on it because of the title.
Yeah. See,
Because to be honest, RB3, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I hate this nitpicky, stupid, I'm a film critic kind of mentality now, that people hate everything. Like,
Right.
Jesus Christ, like
Right.
you guys hate everything.
Right. I mean, the Your Movie Sucks guys, he actually likes some movies that he talks about. But
Yeah.
his thing, it's weird for him. I'm a fan almost, but he'll blend like actual legitimate criticisms with a movie, like talking about story structure and all that stuff, and he'll blend it in with the nitpicky bullshit. And that just to me is like you just at least Cinema Sins is like you're being nitpicky, but like if
Cinema Sins lost me. Like,
I lost some unless it's like a film that I personally hate, then I'm ready to watch one of those.
Yeah, even then I'm like,
but at least for them is very clearly a thing of like they're not really criticizing the movie. But we are in like the peak like nitpicky. This logical decision didn't make sense, so this whole movie falls apart.
I think someone had a video about that, about the was it Film Joy or was it Patrick Williams? Patrick Williams, I think it was. Patrick Williams maybe. Had a great video about how everyone is. Yeah, it is Patrick Williams, about how everyone is talking about the most nitpicky.
Yeah, that's annoying. It's that's awful. Yeah,
film criticism.
Because
I agree.
Yeah, I think, and I always go back to Hitchcock because that's my boy now. Ever since I had the Hitchcock class. But I think somebody asked him like, in your films, like why don't the characters just call the police? And his simple answer is because that's boring, and that's true. Like just let the story be the story, Don't try and go in there with all this like this decision didn't make any sense, or unless it's like if it's like a character decision that's a different. Sure. That's a different story. But if it's something like, I saw, I got annoyed by particularly the year movie Sucks Guys because he was going after A Quiet Place for some very particular, like some stupid shit. Like, why are they walking outside with the kid if he's deaf? And, okay, of course that's you could criticize the movie for that, but.
I think a lot of people
go with the story.
I think a lot of people had some hot takes about it. They're like, well, if the sound is doing this, then they.
If the waterfall, if they can't talk on waterfall, then why don't they just live by the waterfall? They don't. So just get over it. Yeah. But but if there are some legitimate, I've seen some people actually have some real problems with A Quiet Place that are legitimate. But
so we talked about the 3 movies that he kind of hit back to back to back.
Yeah, Signs and Joaquin Phoenix. And so so also let me say one more thing about Signs before we move on. I also think that what Joaquin Phoenix brings to this movie, he kind of has that like silent stoicness that like is consistent through like Bruce Willis in the previous 2 roles. That Bruce Willis had in Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, but it's almost baked more into like the setting. I almost feel like the living in the Midwest, like in the farm in the middle of nowhere, like the isolationism and how that kind of builds the character along with the other in respect to other characters in the story. I think is really dope. Yeah, plus Joaquin is a beast. Yeah.
Now, we talked about those 3 that he kind of, we can call the rise. Now let's talk about the fall. He did it with 4 movies, back to back to back. 4 movies, RB3. 4. That made M. Night Shyamalan's name laughable. The Village, 2004. 2006, Lady in the Water. 2008, The Happening. 2010, The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those 4 before we get to After Earth. Because I feel like After Earth was him
that's peak.
Trying.
Oh, really? Oh, trying.
No, but trying and failing, but it felt like he was he felt like he was taking a break after these 4 literal rocks in his face.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't full discussion, I didn't see The Village all the way through. Okay. I did try and watch 30 minutes of it before getting here.
Sure.
Today. It's on Netflix, so I tried to check it. I watched Sixth Sense on Netflix.
What about Lady in the Water?
So I didn't finish The Village. Lady in the Water I've seen before. I've seen it a few years ago.
Sure.
And that's not a good movie.
And then The Happening?
The Happening is not a good movie. That's
not
almost
a good movie.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's one of the worst movies of all time. Yeah, The Happening. Have you seen that movie? RB3?
Yeah, it's not. Ooh. As a kid, I'm not gonna lie. I saw it as a kid, man. I saw it when it came out.
Yeah,
we didn't see it in theaters. My dad got the bootleg, but I as a kid, I thought it wasn't the worst thing ever. But of course, watching it now.
I was gonna say you just saw the sequel with Bird Box.
Yeah.
Ooh, mic drop.
Nah, I think I'm gonna give.
Come at me, bro.
I think I'm giving The Happening over Bird Box. Though.
Oh, bro.
I'm giving The Happening over Bird Box.
Bird Box is bad, bro.
Yeah.
It literally the first thought. I was watching 20 minins in this movie. I'm like, is this The Happening Part 2? Because it's same quality.
The Happening has some cool shots. They had one take in there.
But that doesn't make it a good movie.
No, it's not. It's not a good movie. No.
Zooey Deschanel. Shout out to Zooey Deschanel.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about Mark Wahlberg in the movie, which is legendary. Yeah. But Zooey Deschanel to me is the runaway star in this movie.
Yeah.
where she just plays the same face in every scene.
Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is what I mean. Obviously, these are the movies. Let's talk about these three first before I talk about The Last Airbender, because I think that's in a different level. As far as,
but a lot of people don't see The Village as a disappointment. Well,
Really?
some people see it. I mean, I think
it's more of like a
the
decline.
expectations. It's the expectations.
The expectations, him declining with his expectations versus just pure awful movie.
Yeah, I think some
'Cause
people
I would
thought it was a
agree.
step down.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would agree. I feel like there's levels to this game, man. And I feel
Right.
like from bad, like The Happening, so bad, and then The Last Airbender's even worse. Like it comes down.
Well, have you seen Lady in the Water though?
Yeah, Lady in the Water's pretty bad too, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
if-
I think
don't
The
know if
Happening is. I think The Happening is just like one of the worst.
Oh, okay. So
Like,
you just
Lady in
gonna
the
put
Water's bad,
You're gonna take
but-
Lady in the So
I'll take Lady in the Water. Yeah, 100. The Happening is.
yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Like that movie to me makes like no sense.
Yeah. I don't really I could get laughs out of it happening though. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but it
whereas,
laughs 'cause it's so bad.
But Lady in the Water is not even like entertaining to watch.
That's true. But I could see what he was going for versus The Happening. That's like the king of the Razzies, man. like it's really bad.
Nah, hey man, but I actually I think the Lady in the Water in particular is super interesting because this of course is our best picture winner, The Shape of Water, before The Shape of Water.
That's right. Yeah.
Man and Fish Lady. It's also definitely the one film that he gets into his like creativity.
That's
bag.
right. He wrote himself in the movie.
He wrote himself in the movie as an
Yeah.
angry critic
Yeah.
who hates. And it's such a weird thing, man. Like
It's really bad.
He always I don't know if this is just a thing he's gonna keep doing through his movies or I mean, because I don't want to say anything about Glass, but Glass in a very, very, very subtle way kind
did it again.
insinuates the same thing of like fuck the critics, like you know, people are gonna like what they like, you know, and I think that this movie definitely encompasses his feelings towards people's reactions towards The Village, people's reactions towards, you know, some people have the more negative reaction towards Signs than others. But
And he literally wrote a character so he can tell off that character.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, so I think that's fascinating. I think that's the peak of the auteurism and what that can lead to.
Well, that's what it comes to, right?
Yeah.
That his trailers have become almost infamous for just slapping his name onto everything, to the point of like, all right, man, we get it. You made this movie. And to the point of laughs, man. I mean, people would laugh in the theater when they would see M. Night Shyamalan in the name. And I think it's because of this little middle period that he had with these four movies that I just named, especially The Happening. I'm telling you, man, The Happening's next level. But let's talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender. I mean, The Last Airbender, because it's not Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is, I remember when this movie was coming out, and I remember hearing about it.
I saw it in theaters.
Me too. And it, yeah, you were probably 4.
No, I was. I actually remember because me and my cousin were like the biggest Avatar: The Last Airbender fans. So
let me tell you something. Let me teach you a little
But
something.
it is your section.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
Avatar: The Last Airbender is like literally my life.
Yeah, right.
Like my dog's name is Korra. So the Avatar world is me and my friends and I were like next level obsessed. Like next level. I'm talking like forums. I'm talking like theories. It's like I would go into the Avatar forums and obviously the Korra forums too. I would talk about the different levels of bending, just all this kind of stuff that I really, like my buddies and I were so into, especially during this time, which is following up the perfect finale. Like I can talk about so many times. How the Avatar: The Last Airbender finale is perfect, in my opinion. So my anticipation for this movie was pretty freaking high, even though it was Shyamalan, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's Shyamalan," and I'm like, "Yeah, but the creators of the show are also, you know, helping with the movie." Something that, guess what, RB3, and I talked about it right here with Josh McCouga when he talked about the Netflix show. Netflix did the same press release that Shyamalan did, and everyone's like, "Yeah, for Netflix," but they didn't do that with
the show.
Yeah, I was like, they were involved with the movie too, man. That doesn't really mean much, but everyone's like, "Oh, but the creators of the show," and I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
no. And I told McCook, I'm like, no, we've seen this before. And they said the same thing before. But why is everyone cool with it because of Netflix, but not cool with it back then?
I was say we should be less cool with it because of Netflix, because they gave us Death Note, and that's just one of the worst movies ever made.
Everyone's like Netflix is good. No, I'm telling you right now, this movie is a cautionary tale, not just on how not to adapt a source material, but how difficult it is to adapt a source material when it comes to anime. And I know I'm going to hear it from everyone, and I always do, but I really do consider Avatar Last Airbender, what I call it, American anime. And this is something that I coined, right? And I've talked about this with Emma and with Wendy, who are also Emma Fife, who's a big fan of it too. And I talked a little bit about with her how it's so anime inspired to the point that it's like this weird blend of American cartoons and actual Japanese anime. That's what Avatar: The Last Airbender is. But the difficulty of adapting such a sprawling, epic journey that's really centered on the characters. And I really do feel like, you know, he tried and he failed awfully. And a lot of that is 90% of it, to be honest, RB3, is the writing. It's not, you know, the special effects or anything like that. It's the writing. It's really bad dialogue.
Those special effects are nice, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not bad, but it's really bad. It's really bad dialogue, and it's really bad story structure, and it's just not. What people forget, and I will always say this about every anime adaptation, and I really want to do a video about it because I saw another video talking about anime adaptations into Hollywood movies, especially with Alita Battle Angel coming out. What I really do feel about anime adaptations is it's not just that Americans can't, you know, they want to make it white. It's not just that makes it bad. You know, speaking of white people say, oh, it's because they're making it white. That's not what it is. It really is because of the connection that people have to these animes and the stories that they tell within the 22 episodes or within the 20 episodes or within the 14 episodes, however many episodes there are in an anime season. And all the seasons that they have on top of that. I'm talking about stuff like Bleach. I'm talking about stuff like Naruto. I'm talking about stuff like Attack on Titan. All these animes, even Ghost in the Shell, all these animes that people hold near and dear to their heart have multiple episodes and seasons to dive into what makes the anime great in the first place, RB3, and that is the characters.
Right.
The characters are the ones that if you don't get the characters right, it doesn't matter if they can do martial art fire bending or martial art water bending or kill giant titans and it's epic. And that's why Hollywood is obsessed with, oh, Attack on Titan is crazy cool, giant monster. Nothing. That literally is like this much of like you can do an entire season of Attack on Titan, and they just did, where there's no titans. No titans at all. And it's just a story because that doesn't matter. That's the backdrop. What matters is the characters.
I think particularly with a show like Avatar, the Last Airbender, that show, it's like the whole idea of the show is like the chosen one, like the day-to-day work it takes to being the chosen one, like the day-to-day journey it does to build up to the finale, to the climax. So that particular is really hard to capture in the movie because like you don't have the day-to-day experience you have in the show. You have to get it done. I think with anime adaptations, like you have a real better chance of doing a movie better than a show, like an anime show, adapting that.
You mean like a live action show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I'm talking about like in terms of like adapting a movie. Making a movie.
But you see, most animes are shows.
Yeah, but we're talking. I mean, like in particular with Ghost in the Shell. Like Ghost in the Shell was a movie before it was a show. That's true. And they were remaking the movie. But if they would have, like, it's
not necessarily true though. To be honest,
but I mean, yeah,
as someone who's seen the series,
I mean, you said they incorporated some of the series. But what I'm saying is that like the movie
came first.
The movie came first, and if they were to direct the movie, if they were to directly adapt the movie, a lot of the times, to me at least, I notice a lot of times, the adaptation just gets the spectacle of the thing and doesn't actually understand the value of what the anime is saying. Like I think in particular and there was a great video essay that Nerd Writer 1 did about the Ghost in the Shell live action versus the anime. In the anime, there's that one scene where you spend the one scene with the garbage people, and you spend like a good 3 minutes with those garbage dudes before one of them turns and is like reprogrammed. In the movie, you spend like 10 seconds with them before that happens. You know, so you generally, so people just don't understand what the anime is actually saying. And same thing with American remakes of something like Old Boy, and I love Spike, but you know, like I actually didn't see that movie, the American remake all the way through. So maybe I'm not being fair, but he didn't understand. I feel like there wasn't an understanding. Maybe not him. Maybe the screenplay didn't have an understanding of what the South Korean ideology and culture incorporated into that story, and that's
100% true. Yeah. People. That's the problem. That's the problem with anime adaptations. That's the problem with anime in general. Is that Hollywood sees it. If I'm a 52-year-old executive for, I don't know, Sony or Warner Brothers, and I see this, you know, hey, I want to do this, and I see it, and I'm like, hell yeah, that shit looks dope. But that's not the reason why people like it. People don't like Ghost in the Shell because it looks dope. People like Ghost in the Shell because of all the super deep, profound themes, political, social themes that Ghost in the Shell tackles. Same with Attack on Titan. Same with My Hero Academia. Same with every single anime. Death Note, if you've seen the anime for that, tackles very deep, profound themes within characters and within worlds that they create. That is something that Hollywood has not been able to do. Every time people ask me, what's the best anime adaptation? I say Inception. You know, and it's this much based on Paprika, the anime. Right. But that's it. That's it. If you want to make an anime movie, do that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
just take the idea,
the idea, and make it your own.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, you can't do that. That's, you know, you can't do that because this is the greatest anime ever. It's like, chill, and we can able to do that. And obviously part of this too is name recognition, right? Something like Avatar: The Last Airbender is huge versus something like what we're gonna see coming out in a few weeks, Alita Battle Angel. Ask your average anime fan, probably hasn't seen that or hasn't read the manga. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I heard about it for a long time.
You heard about it, but it's not quite as big as Ghost in the Shell.
Right.
Or Attack on Titan or Death Note. Those are huge properties versus something like an Alita Battle Angel or versus something like I just said about Inception. You know, taking smaller anime properties and subtly adapting that. That's the way to do it. But again, you're not able to do it with something as epic and something as profound as Avatar: The Last Airbender, because it's a cartoon series, but it's so profound and it's so epic because of all the themes that they tackle throughout the 3 seasons that they do. I don't know. It's something that, to be honest, I don't think Netflix is going to be able to do it either. Yeah. I just really don't. And I talked about it, like I said before, with Josh McCool when it was announced. Nah. Count me out. I mean, I'll watch it, but there's no way. It's unadaptable. You can't adapt. Part of the charm of it is the animation too. That's part of what makes it charming.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole separate conversation about the form of animation and how that I definitely agree. I think that people, you know, and this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I take a little bit of disheartening to Disney remaking all their animations into live actions, because now you're telling people that, like, oh, this medium is the live action, to me, like, oh, man, I don't know, but then again, people are probably going to live with the Beauty and the Beast and animation more than they're going to live with the live action one.
But then again, it made like $1 billion.
It did make $1 billion, so it's clearly okay. So they're clearly making their money off.
Aladdin's going to make $1 billion too.
Yeah, Aladdin's going to make money.
So is Lion King.
Lion King's going to make $2 billion.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think we have to cherish what the form of animation is, because it's so, especially the 90s animation.
Sure.
We're never getting that back.
But I feel like there's a massive difference, and I talked about this a little bit with what's his face, Adi Shankar, about anime and adaptation and about translations between Japanese. Like, the Japanese people watch anime as if it's like Game of Thrones. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't watch anime and they're not like, you know, these weird trendy kids who are watching animation. Versus something like an Aladdin or a Beauty and the Beast or a Lion King or any other Disney movie. It's 100%, almost 100% purely based on nostalgia or on childhood.
That's nostalgia.
Yeah. Versus anime is purely based, you're watching some
That's culture.
It's culture.
Yeah.
I'm a 35-year-old man and I'm watching Food Wars. Or I'm watching whatever anime.
Food Wars.
Oh, dude. Have you seen that anime?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I fuck with Food Wars.
Oh, come on.
It's weird as fuck, though. It's super weird.
It's too weird.
It's too weird, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, people watch that and they're like 40. and it's not weird. It's not like a 40-year-old watching, some child. The translation between anime and American audiences versus American cartoons is so different that people, I think that doesn't translate. Still nowadays, it just doesn't translate. People watch anime as if it's a live action show. They don't watch it and think to themselves, this is a cartoon. No, they think, no, this is a real show and this person's dying or this person, whatever. That's the connection they have to those characters. That's the connection that I have as an anime fan to those characters. Right. So that's always going to be a disconnect too, on top of everything we just said already. It's too much. It's too many layers to be able to nail, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's certain little subtle ways to get around it, like I just said about Inception or maybe Alita, fingers crossed. That can kind of get you around the ability to adapt something,
right?
Like an anime. After Earth. Do you remember this movie, RB3?
I remember seeing it. I don't remember this movie.
I remember Jaden Smith. I remember
Jaden Smith, great rapper though. Great rapper.
Hey,
great rapper.
I feel like I'm Goku. I remember Will Smith being the most dry, angry. Military guy in this movie. I remember him like never cracking a smile in this movie.
Yeah.
I remember Jaden Smith running around fighting off monsters, and that's kind of it. RB3. And I remember the suits.
It wanted to be Avatar.
Yeah.
Really, like not the Avatar the anime, but the Avatar the blue people.
Yeah, and I feel like part of it's too kind of back to back to back to back. Kind of goes back to the dialogue, man. I remember the dialogue in this movie being like, ugh. So dry and so didn't make any sense.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, The Sixth Sense had like 10 drafts. Like he had like 10 drafts of that screenplay. Unbreakable, he's been working on his entire life. I feel like with these movies, I don't know if he's not having enough time in the writing process but also too, I mean, the movies like Unbreakable. Really, if you look at the dialogue for something like Unbreakable and Sixth Sense. And the science dialogue's not really great in that either, but it fits with the melodramatic like tone of what they're saying. Like they I mean, particularly with Bruce Willis, man. Bruce Willis has no emotions or in The Sixth Sense or Unbreakable, just none. But then when he reads those lines, they feel empty because they are empty, and the performer performing them is empty.
Yeah.
But whereas in something like After Earth, like Will Smith is not that kind of actor. Jaden Smith is brand new to the scene, essentially.
Sure. He was great in Pursuit of Happiness, but he was like 5.
He was in 5. He was only in like 4 scenes.
Yeah.
Not 4 scenes. That's not.
No,
that's
but
not accurate. He was in a lot of it, but he wasn't Will Smith in that movie.
No.
This one almost like switched roles.
That's
like
true.
It's like Will Smith is like the kid and Jaden's like the adult.
Yeah.
He's out in the forest the entire time. I don't know, man.
I feel like this was the hook, line, sinker. This was the
this put Will Smith into retirement, right?
Yeah, this is put Will Smith into retirement. This literally destroyed Jaden Smith's career as an actor. Like this is the Shyamalan at full like shittiness.
Yeah.
Like
this is when his name came in the trailers and people
would laugh. That's 100% true. This is when Shyamalan was like, all right, I'm gonna take a break.
Yeah.
And he followed that up with The Visit, which some people would call
found footage, just as a return.
The rise and the return. Some people still don't like this movie.
Yeah. I don't mind it.
I've heard both takes.
Really?
For the most part, I heard that it's okay, and that it's better than the awfulness that we've gotten from the previous.
It's an above average found footage movie. Like
old people being weird.
Yeah,
I'm good.
It's not really like. It's just it's just like an above average found. There's nothing really more to it, but the fact for Shyamalan coming off of like
After Earth with an above average movie,
after Earth,
true.
after Last Airbender,
and also it costs like $2.
Yeah, he self-financed this movie himself, which is amazing.
Yeah,
and again, like he I don't know if he felt passionate about this story in particular, but. He told it, and he's back to.
And it got him the direction with Split.
Yeah. First, let me say before we get into Split, can I say one more thing? I think The Visit, fortunately, is a found footage movie, and I haven't said this throughout the rest of the podcast, but I think Shyamalan has a real problem with close-ups. He has a real problem with like how close he likes to put the camera to people's faces.
Yeah.
And fortunately for The Visit, it's a found footage, so it doesn't really go into that like as much. But man, are those moments like in The Happening when the camera's like right here, Mark Wahlberg's like saying, "Is it the wind?" Like, are those moments horrible? Same thing with The Last Airbender. There's a lot of those. And he does that. Like, I don't know, like in Unbreakable and Signs, he had like some of that, but they were designated to like the perfect moments, you know. And The Visit didn't have any of those, so I appreciate that. That's the reason I hate Split. I hate Split because the shot is just fucking annoying me. Excuse my language.
When Split came out, people adored this movie, man.
Hate it. Yeah, people love it.
Loved it. Yeah. I saw this when it was on HBO, like 6 months later or 7 months later.
And did you like it?
I liked it, but I was like, oh my god!
Yeah.
Talk about overhyped.
Yeah.
This movie is pretty good. Okay, pretty fun.
They're like, this is peak horror. They said
They
this
were
is
like,
peak horror.
Yeah, I was like, really? This movie made a $40 million opening? Holy crap, man. I remember my homies coming out of the theater telling me to go watch it. And I was like, all right, maybe. So I was going to go watch it, and then I just didn't end up going.
Right.
But yeah, man, I really feel like this movie 100%, literally all of it, like the mantle, the rock, whatever you want to say about this movie, the foundation of this entire premise and this entire movie is James McAvoy. Yeah. It's just him having fun, great. Acting his ass off, and just doing a bunch of roles and performances, and him just being like, hey, look, I'm a crazy Swiss Army knife. Check out what I can do. And that's the most fun part of the movie. Everything else to me is like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just literally like, oh, look, he's a lady now. Oh, look, he's a little kid. Oh, look, he's mean.
Yeah.
Oh, like that's the.
See, that was my thing. I didn't.
It's more of a gimmick than anything else. It's a really well done gimmick. But it's literally just James McAvoy having a blast, having fun, and it works.
He's killing it,
and he's kicking ass. 100%. But James McAvoy is a fantastic freaking actor, and I gotta say, this is my one moment. I'll finish on this. Did you see SNL over last weekend with James McAvoy? It was great. It was. I haven't had that much fun with an SNL, and I see SNL every week. I saw the Rachel Brosnan episode, which was okay, and I saw the James McAvoy one. It was so much fun.
Really?
It was such a blast, and it's literally Split.
Yeah.
It's him just doing the most
bunch of characters,
different accents, different characters. There's one skit that's probably everyone's favorite. It's the most basic thing ever, but it works, and it's him being an air traffic controller for some kids coming out of, apparently it's like the Fire Festival Part 2 or something.
That's funny.
And they're like trying to land the plane because the pilot's passed out. And it's him being an air traffic controller from Scotland. So he puts in his heavy Scottish accent. They're like, excuse me, sir, I don't understand. He's like, you got to fly the plane and float and salt. And it's just going, And they're like, I don't get it, man. It's so funny. That one's great. There's him where he's playing a Philly guy, and he does a crazy Philly accent, doing a PR, not a PR, a polling commercial thing where they get people in a room and they poll them to see if they like the commercial for Charming, and he's just pitching Charming commercials, and it's so funny. That's probably the funniest one, where he's just pitching Charming commercials, and he's like, all right, the booty hole and the poop comes out, and you got to take it back. He swipes it, he puts it in the butt, Charming. And he's just like dropping the mic every time, and it's like, let's try that again. And he keeps going, and it's funny.
That's funny.
It's funny. James McAvoy, I love the guy. I think the guy, he's my Professor X. He's a fantastic actor, and if that's my biggest takeaway from Split, man, is just him having
he's
fun.
Great. He's great. I do think
rejoice.
Yes. That's where I draw the line. That's where I draw the line.
I just had to say that.
Oh my god. See, that's where. I feel like that's okay. So I have a lot of problems with Split. Like, even though
I like him being the lady. The lady is my favorite.
No, it's great. No, actually, I think the personalities is great. I think I was disappointed in the personalities because they said, "Oh, he has 23 personalities," but we only see like five. Yeah. And then the rest we see on like video screens. And then for me, I did fuck with Glass because Glass actually did hold to his promise of showing like 20 personalities.
Did you like Glass a lot?
I didn't like.
Did you like
I didn't
the
like
twist?
It.
No, you didn't like it.
I didn't like the movie. No, I didn't. Well, no, well,
it's got my homegirl.
There's
in
multiple twists. Actually,
it's got my homegirl.
Oh, Sarah
in it.
Paulson.
Sarah Paulson.
Yeah.
I literally am just watch the movie just for her.
No,
That's it.
She has moments.
Okay.
I don't. We're not gonna spoil it here, but
okay.
yeah. I don't even want to really touch on.
Let's finish up with this.
But Split though, this is a different situation.
With the rise and fall and rise and whatever of Shyamalan, where is he right now? Is he back on the fall?
I mean, no, he's not back. I mean, a lot of people love Split.
Glass,
a lot of people love Split.
Glass.
Glass
Is the most recent movie.
Some people really fuck with Glass, man.
Really?
There are some people who are adamant defenders of that
feel like
movie.
he's back on the fall, man. Not necessarily. It's not a free fall. It's not a Last Airbender fall.
Right.
But I think he's starting to go like, oh, all right, maybe I'm not all the way back.
Like I definitely think Glass is a better movie than
Split?
Like if I were to, 100%. And I think honestly, if you were to make like the top 4 Shyamalan movies, I think you do the first 3, and I'd put Glass as a 4-star.
But you didn't like it.
But I think that the choices were ridiculous.
Okay.
But I think they're ridiculous, but they're intentional, and I respect the intention behind it. And like I can't really like say what it is.
Sure.
But without spoiling it, but I think what he was trying to say was kind of stupid, but the fact that he like actually said it is actually hilarious to me.
Awesome.
But yeah, I do think that with me with Split at least, like I just personally don't like Split because I think the way it exploits. I think Shyamalan's whole thing throughout his filmography is exploring trauma and torture and how that affects somebody. But this movie, it feels like borderline exploitive with the girl,
with the little girls,
and the shotguns and with at the end. I think all of that is like just you're just gonna keep beating
with their
that
backstory too.
Yeah, be subtle. Yeah, do just be nice. You know, like.
Yeah.
Tell you because I love The Sixth Sense because it's so subtle. I love Unbreakable because it's so subtle. And Split, and that's why I even get more frustrated by the whole idea of like, oh, it ties into the Unbreakable universe because to me it's like this is like the opposite of subtle. This is
more exploitative.
Yeah, it's more exploitative, and it's way more exaggerated. Like this dude's literally climbing on walls, eating shotgun bullets, and you're telling me this is in the same universe that we saw David Dunn in and Mr. Glass, where they're like struggling through a pool to fight. Like this, to me that takes it to a whole nother level for me. Sure. And then Glass has the unfortunate disadvantage of like having to explain why all 3 of them are like on the same level.
It's this world building that he might not nail.
Yeah. It's a lot to put in for one movie. So,
all right, guys, that concludes our conversation on M. Night Shyamalan. Definitely a polarizing director. But let us know in the comments down below. What do you think of Shyamalan in general? What do you think of his? What is your favorite movies? What are your worst movies?
I'm a fan. Even though I shit on this dude for a lot of this episode, actually, I'm a fan. I think he does warrant the conversation of being a great director that he gets off.
And if you want to let us know anything, follow us on Twitter. I'm at Squad Leader Ace.
I'm at RB3Schmoes.
And leave us a comment in the First Cut YouTube channel.
First Cut YouTube channel. Also SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/The Meaning of Podcast. And of course, we also are on Spotify and on iTunes and everywhere else on Collider Factory. So Collider Factory fans, if you're listening, please check out our YouTube channel, First Cut, and check out our SoundCloud.
There you go. For the Meaning of Podcast, I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And we are peacing out. Peace out, guys.